This is my third attempt at recording this podcast episode. I don't think we'll get any more distractions from notifications because I just fixed the settings. So the last two times I'd be talking and then a banner will pop up and I have the preview of messages that come across. So I always get something and it's like, oh, who's that from? Oh, what's that? Is this important? So I muted it and I am setting aside an hour for me to get this podcast episode done. Welcome to Something Positive for Positive People. I'm Courtney Brame, and this is a podcast for people who are struggling with navigating STI stigma. Simple as that. I interview people who are living with herpes. I interview people who work in the healthcare field and mental health, and people who have experiences that I believe can help teach us something about navigating our own herpes or whatever else, whatever other STI diagnosis. So I mentioned before to you all in another podcast episode that I'm working with some different equipment. I bought a new phone, and the equipment that I've had before no longer works with this device. So I traded in my iPhone that I could record podcasts on for something that has a much better camera and a lot better battery life, and now has an app with it that I can record podcasts in that allows me to immediately upload it, which is very convenient for me. Um, I'm with I'm suspending interviews because when I interview people, there's a lot of editing that needs to take place. I'm at a point now where I'm confident in talking through everything myself, and if I say something where I stumble over a word or something, I'll just correct myself in the moment, and I'm comfortable with moving forward that way. So this is what episodes are going to be like until I can get to a point where I'm in person with people more and we can build a little bit of rapport to where the episodes go back to sounding like conversations more so than interviews. Because people get nervous and there's all kinds of stuff there. But today's episode, I am going to be interviewing myself in a sense because I'm not going to have a guest, and I also have an experience that I want to share with you all that recently occurred. So when we talk about STIs, like you hear from people with herpes after they've had herpes for a long time and they come into the spotlight, they go public, they create social media pages and things like that. And even with HIV advocates, these are people who have dealt with it and healed from it for however long they've done that for. And we don't hear anything at all from people who have had to navigate the challenges that come with a curable STI, like gonorrhea, syphilis, chlamydia. What are the other ones? I can never say this word, trick. Vaginosis, I believe. So going down the list of the curable STIs, like we don't hear from these people in the moment. We often hear from them in retrospect. So these are people who have gone through whatever stages of their diagnosis of chlamydia to moving forward from that, dealing with any stigma that may be associated with it, dealing with having to disclose that to partners, the experience in the healthcare field, and then like the reflection on the situation and looking at the lessons. Like these are all things that are important pieces of dealing with an STI diagnosis, right? But when you hear from people who've had chlamydia, I feel like there's always an emphasis on had. They had chlamydia one time a long time ago, and I think that there's a little bit of stigma there because it's like, oh, I don't have it anymore, just so you know, like I don't get that anymore, I don't have that anymore. That's what it sounds like to me. It may sound completely different to you. And if you're someone who's had chlamydia before, then maybe you can relate or maybe you can't. I don't know. But I think that it's important for us to hear from someone who can speak to that experience more close to home. Like me, yay! So, this is the first STI that I've had since my herpes diagnosis, now that I'm thinking about it. And it's not what I would have expected at all. You know, not to say that I was unprepared for contracting chlamydia, or not to say that I was prepared for it, but it just wasn't. It wasn't like what I heard from other people or what I thought it would look like or what I read online. It was just super mild. I don't know if I caught it early or what, but um, it happened, and I'm at the point where my window of not having sex anymore is up. But I'm still on an antibiotic for something that came as a result of the chlamydia, which is prostatitis. So, prostatitis is inflammation of the prostate, and I'm on antibiotics for that, which was originally caused by chlamydia. So, I think that the best way to go about this would be to just, tell the story from my perspective as if I was asking someone else to tell their story about this. Um, just given like the timeline and everything. I checked in with my partners before recording this, and I have my own like little boundaries around how much information to disclose. Um, and so I'm probably gonna pause at parts to be like, I probably shouldn't say this thing or I should say that. So bear with me as I go through this. So I am non-monogamous. I am leaning towards polyamorous because demisexual is a label that falls in the range of how I choose to do relationships. I want to have an emotional connection. Can I just have sex? Maybe. Like, I gotta be really attracted to you or turned on by you to just want to have sex with you, and that be that. Um, the way I see it is physically, you can be attracted to someone and you see them, and like, to me, that's the peak of it. Like, when I look at you, this is your peak beauty. We age, where things are gonna happen. You won't be at your best for the rest of your life. Same thing with me. Like, I'm not gonna look like this forever. So this is the most attracted physically that you can be to me. I mean, I could like slim down and my muscles could pop out more or something, I guess. I don't know. But there's also cosmetic surgeries, but who wants to go through all of that, right? However, when you connect with someone, when you can like look into their eyes and you see their soul, or you like observe them and you have conversations with them and you learn your compatibilities and where you're different, and you can connect through those differences with one another, there's something there. I think that you can only become more attracted to a person that you have um, a mental, emotional, spiritual type connection with, that almost seems like a sense of familiarity. Like, I know you from somewhere. Like, I met you before. It may not have been recently in this lifetime. Perhaps it was in the last lifetime. And so demisexuality for me means that I am able, well, demisexuality and polyamory means that when that connection happens, it's safe for me to explore it. I'm free to explore it, consensually with the other person, assuming that they're on board with doing the same. And so, just wanted to drop that little disclaimer in there because there are multiple people that I had to disclose to, and I didn't want nobody being like, "Oh my God, Courtney over there being whatever Courtney's being single." No, I'm just kidding. Let me stop. All right, so I noticed the beginning symptom for me. I had had sex with my partner I've chosen to have unprotected sex with for a while. We've been probably doing that for about a month now. And we were having sex with condoms prior to that. And I've known about her other partners. We had the conversation around STIs, getting tested and everything. And we made a decision to move forward, not using protection. And after this particular time, I have sex with her and I pass out. I always pee after sex. And if I don't know anything else from all these sex people on Instagram that I follow, it's always pee after sex. And this was just one of them nights, y'all, where you fuck, you pass out, and then you wake up like shit. So I go to pee, and that first pee after you get off is always intense. Like, it has like some kind of a to it. This time it had more of a whoa, what the fuck was that to it. And so I peed and was like, huh, that initial sensation wasn't like the ones that normally come afterwards. Maybe this is a one-off. And so every time I peed after that, I didn't feel anything. Like I didn't feel any sort of a stinging sensation. And I know that STIs are typically associated with like a burning urine sensation, blood, discharge. And then when I was reading up on it, they mentioned like fevers, body aches, and chills. And I didn't have any of that. So I go on about my life. And after what, a day or two, I did notice that my pee wasn't coming out with the kind of force that it normally has to it. So like when you turn on a water hose and you don't have like a hose head on it, it just fucking runs. That's what it's supposed to be like. But this seemed like the water was turned on, kind of a little bit slower than normal. And I noticed that after a couple of days and was like, this is weird. Let me look this up. So I'm reading and it talks about kidney things, and it could be a UTI, which is rare for men to have. And so I'm looking further into it. And of course, I scare myself. I scare myself into thinking that I thought this was anything between a UTI and prostate cancer. So I was like, yep, let me go ahead and go into urgent care. And I did not want to drop this money, but I had to drop this money. It was very important for me. Like, I don't normally go to the doctor, but in this case, what had ended up happening was this wasn't seeming to get better. It looked like something where, okay, Courtney, you're dehydrated. But if this is a infection that is affecting the kidneys, I definitely don't want this to get worse. So I go into urgent care, the line's around the corner. I'm there 15 minutes before they open. Everyone's getting COVID tested, so the line's moving rather fast. They asked me what I'm there for. I told them that I was having what I thought were UTI symptoms. And so they eventually, a couple hours later, they call me and tell me that they're ready for me to come. So I go in, and I'm talking to the front desk lady, filling out the paperwork and everything, and then they sent me to a room. I also got COVID testing done because I overheard someone say that if you pay the $99, you'll eventually get reimbursed in like 8 weeks thanks to the CARES Act. So I was like, oh, well, since I'm here, might as well. Now, sitting in the room after they do my COVID test, the nurse comes in and asks me about why I'm there, what my symptoms are, and I let them know about the initial pee situation. But I was like, I'm not feeling it, like it's not burning like you would think STI symptoms. There's no blood, there's not been any fever, like it doesn't really make sense to me. And I mentioned to her, oh, and my butt hurts. Um, like where my prostate is, I guess. At the time, I didn't know that that's where it was. It just kind of felt like a hemorrhoid or something, but you couldn't feel or see a hemorrhoid. It was just like an internal thing. And then I started thinking, well, maybe like I'm having an outbreak right there, but that didn't feel right. I don't know. It just didn't make sense to me really. So she asks me a couple of questions. She asked if I was concerned about UTI or STIs, and I was like, no, because I just got my test results in negative for any STIs last week. At that point, it would have been last week or 2 weeks ago. And I was like, I've been with the same person, so I'm not really worried about it. Um, but treat me accordingly. This is a very important part of the story. I told her, but treat me accordingly. And so she's like, okay. They take a urine sample. I remember I got the shot in my butt and then 4 pills as precautions of gonorrhea and chlamydia. They told me that the UTI test came back negative, which was something that they figured out right away. It was like, oh, it's not a UTI. And then I pointed out to her again my butt. And so I had to turn over on my side. She had to put a finger in my ass, and I went ow because something in there was not right. And so she tells me that the prostate is in fact inflamed, and she gives me, she tells me that she wants me to see a urologist. And so They leave the well, she had to have another person in there, so some dudes watching me get fingered in the ass, and then they both leave the room, and I'm just in there chilling. And she comes back with discharge paperwork for prostatitis. She was like, all right, we prescribed you an antibiotic, you'll be on that for a month, have a great day. I was like, okay, cool. So I leave, and I was communicating with everybody at this point, like, oh yeah, I went to urgent care. They told me I had prostatitis, blah blah blah, and that was it. Like that's what I'm thinking. All right, I can't work out for a few days. I need to rest and let this go away. Drink lots of water. Avoid caffeine. No alcohol. Simple as that. This was on, I believe it was a Wednesday. It was a Tuesday or Wednesday. I want to say it was Tuesday. Friday, I had sex again with the same person that I've been having sex with. Saturday morning, I have sex with the same person I've been having sex with. Sunday morning, about 8 a.m., I get a phone call from uh, the place that I went to for everything. And they called and they go, the guy goes, yeah, so when it comes to your gonorrhea test, it sounded like Maury a little bit. You are not the father. But he was like, yeah, gonorrhea came back negative. And then he paused. He goes, your chlamydia test came back positive. And I remember thinking to myself, I ain't cut out for this non-monogamy shit, y'all. That was my immediate thought. And I was like, okay, are y'all open today? And he was like, yep, we're open till 8 p.m. I was like, I'll be there soon. So I was wondering because they wrote me a prescription for something, and I didn't know if that antibiotic was for chlamydia or if that was for prostatitis. And at this point, I hadn't gone to pick it up because the paperwork that I received had said, rest, drink water. If your symptoms worsen, call us. I thought that the antibiotic that she talked about prescribing was what I took in the office. So I had questions and I had to call back and be like, hey, can you help me with clarifying some things? So we go through the medications, we go through the invoice, and they were very, very helpful here. And it comes to find out that the prescription that I needed to go and pick up was actually for my prostatitis, which was caused by chlamydia that I later learned. That's a quick story. So when you look up prostatitis, it'll say inflammation of the prostate usually caused by, the word is not chlamydia, but it looks like it. And the other word is gonorrhea. It's not gonorrhea, but it looks like gonorrhea. And so, just fun fact, prostatitis is caused by an STI. This is a thing that can happen if it goes untreated. So, I probably will have had it from that moment where I pissed and just overlooked it as, oh, this is a first pee after sex and I didn't pee right away. It's always a knee buckler, right? Dismiss that, and then 5-6 days later, prostate gets inflamed and I need treatment for prostatitis as well. So, um, I after I got that call, I'm looking to see if there's another place that I can go to, and I catch myself like having thoughts that Courtney would have. So H on my chest had his moments, and then Courtney had his moments. Courtney's moments were like, man, what the, and just like having his feelings about this. This is my first time having an STI. I did almost everything right, and that almost is important here because I'll bring that back full circle. Had the conversation, do we want to use condoms? We used condoms, rapport was built, trust was built, and it still happened, right? So not only that, but I have to go back and see these people again. I have to go back in here and say that I tested positive for an STI and I need to be treated. Not just that, but I need to be treated again because I reinfected myself after you had already treated me, right? And what rubs me the wrong way about this is that in hindsight, now mind you, this is hindsight, it seemed like no one wanted to tell me that this was possibly an STI. That's probably what bothers and scares me the most out of this because that might be the reality of it. Like, I could have come in there in denial. I mean, I think perhaps I was in denial, but I had no reason to think that this would have been an STI or that it would have been chlamydia. Everything said prostatitis when I left, but had they, said to me, hey, we just this is a tentative diagnosis. We'll get the paperwork back for real, but I think it's chlamydia. If I would have heard those words, I wouldn't have reinfected myself. So this, like, to me, speaks volumes on the transparency of communication, perhaps comfort, perhaps I intimidated the nurse practitioners to the point where they were like, oh, well, he just got his test results back, so it's not chlamydia, or he's so confident in his partner that they're only sleeping with each other, or like there weren't enough questions for my liking. And I've gotten tested before at an organization here in St. Louis called St. Louis Effort for AIDS, and they asked me about they did like a sex history, I think it's called, sex assessment. I think it was a history, partner history. They asked if I had sex with men. They asked if I had sex with trans people. They asked if I had sex with sex workers, if I was sharing needles at all. They asked if I was polyamorous. Like, they asked me so many questions to get an idea of whether or not I was a candidate for prep, but to also give me the information, tools, and resources that I would need when I walked up out of there to be more informed, more empowered, and be able to make decisions around my sexual health in a way that protects not only myself but also my partners. And when I left this place, I just didn't have that. I didn't feel that in any way, shape, or form. Like, I thought that sex and conversations around sex and sexual health were just completely being avoided there. And so I coming back to the story, I got sidetracked there. I go back to the facility. Well, first I called and asked if there was a wait. They were like, nope, first come, first serve. So I get there pretty quickly, and we got masks on, and I look at the lady. She asked me, all right, what brings you in today? And it's like, I need to be treated for chlamydia. And I guess I said it louder than they're used to, because for someone to say, hey, I have an STI and I need treatment, that her eyes got big. You know, people are wearing masks, so it's hard to pick up on facial expressions really. But I saw how big her eyes got, and that just kind of made my day. Being able to walk in with that kind of confidence and be like, "This is what I'm here for." So they take me in the back. Fortunately, I didn't have to pay another like fee for the visit. Um, so they take me in the back. I have to fill out a little bit of paperwork, not near as much as last time, but I get sent to a room, and the nurse comes in fairly quickly. She goes, hey, I'm looking at your chart, and it shows that we treated you, and I cut her off. I was like, I left with a diagnosis of prostatitis, and from what the paperwork says, like, you don't have to stop having sex. So I had sex Friday. I got the call Sunday that, excuse me, I got the call on Sunday that I was positive for chlamydia and I'm coming back for treatment because I reinfected myself. She's like, oh, got it. That makes sense. Okay, I just didn't want to over antibiotic you or whatever she said. So, with her, I asked a few more questions just to like make sure that things were okay. I was like, so what medication is this that you're giving me? She's like, okay, the shot is for gonorrhea, the pills are for chlamydia. Don't have sex for a week after you get these, and that was it. Like, there was no. I expected there to be a follow up with us blank, or a follow up on testing, or a follow up. I don't know. I left and I wasn't empowered. I wasn't informed. And when I left this time, or when I was headed there, I was dealing with some stigma. And when I left this time, I was dealing with some stigma, because it was like, damn, I had to get treated for chlamydia twice in the same week. Wow. So not only my first time getting chlamydia, I get it twice. It's funny now in hindsight. That shit wasn't funny at the time though, y'all. But I've been telling everybody, this is prostatitis, prostatitis. Like, oh yeah, I'm just not a prostatitis. Like, that's how I've been presenting it. When the reality is that it wasn't. It was, the prostatitis was caused by chlamydia. Now, why I wasn't told this initially, like, these are healthcare professionals, healthcare providers, and You diagnosed me with prostatitis, but there was no conversation on, hey, this could have come from chlamydia. Because when I asked what's prostatitis come from, they're like, oh, it just happens. It's something that just happens. I was like, all right, well, I guess this just happens. And then I leave and find out fucking 3, 4 days later that I got chlamydia. Like, y'all didn't see this coming. Y'all couldn't tell me that perhaps that's what it could have been, maybe, possibly. And then with that, like, I would have been able to um, just inform my partner. We wouldn't have had sex and I wouldn't have reinfected myself, right? And she could have gotten tested and treated for it sooner. Sooner. Something just flew by the microphone. And yeah, we'd have just had this all taken care of. But when I let her know, she wasn't having any symptoms at all. But she was able to get tested and get treated right away. So that was good. The challenging part about this, outside of stigma, um, internalized and from the healthcare providers, and looking at how Courtney was responding versus how H on my chest knows to respond. Um, there was a little bit of a tug of war there. There was some tug of war because it was like Courtney's having his feelings. Courtney is second guessing this non monogamy stuff. Courtney's like, but I did everything I was supposed to do. And then H on my chest is kind of like consoling Courtney, like, hey, bro, this shit just happens. Here's the lessons. And I got the lessons out of it and there were actually a few. And one of which is that, regardless of how much trust you have between you and your partner and your partners, that's a two-way trust, right? I think that it's important for us to, without prying into our partner's lives or their sex lives, like you, it's easy to like judge a person based on who they have sex with, or judge the person that they're having sex with and be like, oh, this is this kind of person or whatever. And I felt that from myself in regards to one of my partner's partners. And it was completely unwarranted. It was like I didn't have a lot of information about one partner. I knew a lot about another one, that it was a healthy friendship there. There was respect, there was trust, there were all these like positive things. And then with the other one, it was like there wasn't really much there. Like I just thought, oh, this must be the dude that she really likes, So we ain't gonna talk about it really. But then there was like a couple of times where something came up that kind of like set off my red flag radar about there just not really being complete transparency or trust between both of them, right? And I dismissed this red flag as prejudice for myself. Like I was like, no, Courtney, that ain't right. You don't have any information to go off of that would like warrant this red flag being valid. Stop being prejudiced. That red flag that I dismissed as prejudice was perhaps intuition. My gut saying to ask more questions. My gut saying to get a feel for this person, because the relationship doesn't seem like one that's caring. And come to find out, well, by the time that I found out or had that intuition validated, it will have been after the point where infection would have occurred, right? Um, so I had that happen, and then I was thinking to myself about several interviews that I've done where the women have shared something told me blank, like my intuition, like they've gone against their intuitions. Um, Not necessarily to say like you wouldn't have gotten herpes or an STI from sleeping with this person if you just followed your gut, but I think that I would have had more information to make a more informed decision had I trusted my gut initially and asked more questions about her relationship with her other partners, like as, hey, I hear about this person and how like y'all have a very healthy relationship and he's a positive influence on you, he's supportive and everything, but I don't hear much about this other person. I know you're seeing another person. Like, can you tell me about that relationship? Are you taken care of? Are you supported in this one? Do you trust each other? because then I would have been able to make a different or better or alternative decision there, as far as moving forward went. And so um, it was intuition. It wasn't it wasn't prejudice in any way, shape, or form to think that about this other person that I've never met, never seen, never will meet, never will see. Um, so that was a challenging part of this, was pulling out that particular lesson, because it's real easy to think in hindsight, what could I have done differently? And then to also realize, oh, okay, I could have done this differently. And then it's like, damn, why didn't I do that? And you can start to really linger on that and reflect on that. But that's Courtney. That's old Courtney, who didn't know any better or anything. Like, at this point of integration with H on my chest. Again, H on my chest is consoling and being like, here's what the lesson is. Like, I can do that shit instantly. But my problem is that I'll do the H on my chest thing, like, right away. And then the things that Courtney needs in order to catch up with H on my chest have just kind of been forgotten about. And in these things, there are lessons that allow for me to level up. So I have a projected idea of who I want to be in the world, who I'm becoming, and that's H on my chest. Who I am, I'm Courtney. Online, like, everything seems perfect because I can edit it, because I have time to think about it, because I have time to come up with the words. I have edits. I can undo things. I can give feedback. I can give validation. But in the moment, Courtney has to be at a place where, rather than cutting through everything and looking at the depth of it, like, I have to be able to take the situations, the pieces of them, so that I can level myself up. And at some point, Courtney and H on my chest are going to catch up to one another and be one badass motherfucker. But at this point, like, Courtney took the Courtney had the bulk of responsibilities here, because I am actively working to pick up the little nuggets along the way, regardless of how simple it is for me to cut through to the core of a situation. Be like, okay, fuck the symptoms. Here's the disease. Let's cure the disease. But in those symptoms, it's like, well, wait. Oh, okay. Well, I guess we're gonna just let this go. There's something to be learned. And so, rather than me dismissing my intuition as prejudice, I think that it's important for us to really, well, me, and this is me speaking here, it's important for me to allow for those observations of, the red flags or whatever it is that's coming up for me. I need to allow space for those things to be observed, so that I can take whatever it is that's there and then do the steps necessary in order to make informed decisions. So the conversations with I needed to have two conversations, my unprotected partner and then with a protected partner, because oh my god, it was embarrassing, flat out, to say the least. I felt a sense of embarrassment initially after this diagnosis. With herpes, I think my initial feelings were, oh my god, who else did I give this to? And then after that, I don't know that I felt any embarrassment really, but this time I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed to have to go to the doctor twice. I was embarrassed after having just tested negative. I have to tell, my partners at this time, like, hey, I tested positive for chlamydia. Make sure you go get treated. Haha. However, you are supposed to deliver that kind of information, and there's never really a right time to disclose that. So for me, it was just, all right, well, when contact's made, like, I'm gonna do it today. However abrupt it may seem, I need to let them know. And so telling them seemed, it was a little bit embarrassing to even just tell them, like, yeah, we've been physically intimate, like, we've been on, in front of, under, behind bodies with one another, yet it's hard for me to say to you, hey, I tested positive for chlamydia, you should go get checked as well, right? And why is that? Like, something happened to my body. I might have put you at risk for your body to have the same things. Like, when we have a cold, the cold symptoms suck. And we're like, oh, I hate sneezing. I hate my runny nose. Bear. When we have chlamydia, it should be, whatever the symptoms are, this is a pain in the ass. But like, we don't get upset about having to tell someone, hey, I got a cold. Like, why is that? I'm sick. I don't want to get you sick. I may have gotten you sick. I got a cold. Like, it is what it is. There's no stigma there. But because we're naked, or we're naked, because it's sex, that's where the stigma came up for me personally. And not only that, but I'm doing a lot of things like out of the norm. Like, I live an alternative lifestyle. I have sex with multiple people. I have unprotected sex with one person. I have protected sex with another person. And everyone knows that this is a thing for me. I've communicated. I've taken what I thought were the best precautions for everyone and continue to communicate with transparency throughout the process and everything. But why is there still stigma? Like, what's there other than the fact that it's sex, right? So I have resolved this with just feeling my feelings, dealing with my feelings, and then allowing for myself to heal. Because I told a lot of people I had prostatitis, and it's like, shit, prostatitis is caused by chlamydia. So now I gotta own that shit, right? And that's where I'm doing it here. I'm not about to make a post about this. I'm not about to announce this shit to the world. Like, this is me putting this on the podcast for, the community that I've created, that you all have helped support and uplift and get people in here. Like, y'all are the people who are going to hear this story. Y'all can benefit from it, and that it is what it is. Whoever else finds this recording, yay, hopefully you get something out of it. But this is for y'all, because I can't sit up here and be like, yeah, I'm going to have all these people on here share their experience with STIs, and I have an experience with an STI myself, and then not share it. How hypocritical is that? The one of the most challenging parts of this was also, just like having to tell someone that you had sex with for the first time, even like, hey, I might have given you chlamydia. Like, what? What kind of shit is that? Oh, that's probably another piece of it that was embarrassing, because it's like, damn, this wasn't even a really good experience. And then also, like, after reading, I read a lot of the symptoms of like chlamydia, prostatitis, is that it's linked with erectile dysfunction. And I was like, oh, this makes sense, because I haven't, like, I'll get hard, but then I haven't, like, stayed hard, and I haven't really had an urge to masturbate. So, like, sex didn't hurt, or orgasms didn't hurt. I don't recall seeing any discharge. Like, maybe there was, like, some pre-com that came up, but there was no, the symptoms didn't match what was on the what was on Google for chlamydia or any STI. Like, and I just felt so bad. It's like, how the fuck did I miss any of these symptoms? Like, I didn't get the fever, no blood in the urine, it didn't burn, it was just slow flowing. And yeah, so like telling her was challenging. So it's like, hey, I'm sorry, this came up, this happened. Like, I don't want to inconvenience you. Like, if you're comfortable with it, like, let me get you an at-home STI testing kit, and then that'd be how we take care of it, right? So yeah, that was another thing, because like I changed my whole lifestyle over the course of between Sunday and Tuesday. I made the decision I ain't eating meat no more in my house. I'm going vegetarian, like, and that's as a result of what I thought was ED, because I was like, oh my god, I don't know what this is coming from. This is the first time it's ever happened. I was like, fuck. So, chlamydia causes prostatitis. Prostatitis causes erectile dysfunction. Um, Medications treat the chlamydia. Medication treats the prostatitis. The chlamydia medication was just like a one-time use, but the prostatitis is something that I'm gonna have to take for, what's it been, like a week now? I got to take it for 3 more weeks, so I won't be able to. No more tipsy talks over the weekends. I won't be able to drink at this wedding I got to go to. So, this is the kind of stuff that I feel like people need to hear. People need to know, like, it's okay to be scared. It's okay to struggle with stigma, regardless of how often you listen to this podcast, how empowered you feel, you're still human. I host the podcast and I still had to deal with some stigma myself. And so I do know that once I was able to tell my partners, they were both really fucking cool about it. And so that tells me that I have a good people picker. I'm glad that I was able to disclose that to everyone and be able to move on. Another thing that sucks was one of my partners came into town from like pre-quarantine, and she didn't have long to stay, so she came over for like 30 minutes and we just talked for a little bit and caught up. And then she left. She was like, "Hey, I can make time for you Thursday night." And I was like, all right, so see what had happened was, and then I had to tell her the story. So like, even then it was embarrassing because now I got to tell, like, this unexpected situation happened, and I'm now finding myself having to disclose to 3 people, from a situation that, I guess probably I should have only had to tell one person, right, or two, if sex was possibly on the table, and I knew about this, right. So, yeah, that's after having told them, I felt better. And I think that where I felt embarrassed and bad, that lingering sensation of, oh my God, when am I going to do this? That's where the suffering lied. The suffering was in that space. The suffering was from inaction. I'm not sure when to tell. I'm not sure how to tell. I'm not sure how they're going to be affected by this. The sooner the better. I mean, that's the moral of the story here is when you know, let them know. And that was what it was for me. So here I am now. I should be cured of the chlamydia. I'm treating the prostatitis. I no longer have symptoms. I'll be able to have sex. What was it? Oh, today's my 7-day mark. So I can have sex again, but I'm just gonna chill out for a little bit. Let's give it 2 weeks just to be safe. And then I know now that my conversation needs to change. Like I need to have a little bit of a different conversation and like inquire on the relationships that my partners have with other partners. Just making sure that it's one of trust. It's one where they're taken care of. I personally think that no one should treat you any less than you treat yourself, because that's all people can give. At best, people can only treat you as well as they treat themselves. And that goes back to the gray rule if you want to go back and listen to that podcast episode. But I tell everybody that I'm dating, anyone that I'm serious with, like, hey, listen, you've gotten a chance to see how I treat you. Now, don't let anybody else treat you any less than what you're getting from me. And I mean, shit, I don't feel like I give much. Like I'm a damn good listener, and I will give you all the emotional support, and I will take care of you within reason and what I have to offer. So it ain't much. It don't take much for you to get treated a little bit better than I do. Then I'll be able to treat you. So I think that is a baseline of a standard for myself moving forward. Like that's what I need in order to feel safe. So as a result of this negative situation and pulling out the lesson from it, whereas normally I would have just cut through all of it and left the nuggets on the ground because I'm in such a rush to catch up with H on my chest as Courtney and be in that space. Like, I think this is going to be the thing that gets me there faster, because while I'm in this rat race to become, integrated Courtney H on my chest all in one, my power-ups along the way, and I'm speaking in gaming terms, the power-ups that come from these lessons allow for me to speed up and catch up with, where future Courtney is going to be. And I think that picking up the lesson here, putting it on display for you all is something that's leveling me up. Like I have like a clear vision of where I see myself now. And part of that clarity comes part of that clarity comes from me having shared this, because I've thought about it for a while. Like, I wanted to do it, right then and there in a moment, but it wouldn't have come out like this. I wouldn't have had the conversations. I wouldn't have had like the assurance from my partners by our ongoing communication that like this was okay. Like I said, I got approval from them to talk about this and share this story. I hope I did so in a way that made sense, that had enough detail for you to be able to take away from this whatever it is that you need to get from it. Um, if you have any questions at all, like, I'm happy to answer anything that I can about this. I'm not going to tell you who they were, obviously, but if in relation to my experience, reach out. Excuse me. Um, yeah, but for me, another thing is that the healthcare providers, it bothers me that they seemed so unwilling to tell me, hey, this might be an STI. The fact that there wasn't more sex education around it. It's just like, oh, you got chlamydia, here's the cure, don't have sex for a week, bye. And I got a piece of paper that told me what chlamydia is, and it talked about it in a little bit of detail. But how's this how's this contributing to prevention? How's this contributing to the destigmatization of not only STIs, but also talking about STIs, talking about sexual health? They just said, let your partners know. That's it. That's not that's not where that's not where we should be at in 2020. It just isn't. This experience also highlighted for me something that I've said several episodes ago about the importance of finding sex positive healthcare providers. You may or may not remember the We Need a Button campaign advocating for sex positive, queer friendly healthcare. We don't have that anymore. We've unfortunately lost them as a sponsor, but there's going to be, this shows that there's a need for that or something very similar to it. I want to be able to tell people with confidence, if you feel like you're having STI symptoms, or if you need STI related education or sexual health education, sex education, period, these are some resources that you can go to in your area. Free STD testing and treatment, comfortable, knowledgeable, honest, transparent care providers who are there with you every step of the way, from diagnosis to teaching you what you need to know about disclosure. That's what we need. That's what I needed. I needed that on Sunday when I went back into the office. I needed that when I was first diagnosed, and I didn't have it. I want to fix this through something positive for positive people. I am able to fix this. I'm able to find, identify, uplift these sex positive organizations. Like, maybe I can travel around, and I woke up this morning today actually with the idea of investing in like a something positive for positive people van or something, to where I can travel around the world and interview people. That'd be really cool to do. So if y'all know somebody with a fixer-upper, camper, or van or something that they trying to get rid of, like, I'll put money into fixing it up. Let me know. I don't have a car. I just sold it today. So that's $600 a month I no longer have to spend. Whoop, whoop. So I'm going to start saving up for that camper so I can make this dream a reality. And I'm also going to be taking this camper to interview these healthcare providers who are doing the work, who are doing well, who are empowering people who come in with so much shame and sexual health internalized stigma, to become advocates, to be their own advocates, to be able to have their gender identities affirmed and have their sexual orientation and experiences validated, and know that they've been given all of the options for themselves that they can choose from. That's what I want. Like, that's what the world's gonna look like through something positive for positive people. And of course, we're gonna still get people therapy, right? But I've just discovered from firsthand experience that there's a much greater need for something like this than I thought. And, the way that people deliver diagnosis and the information that's exchanged there, like I account for 2 cases of chlamydia diagnoses that during COVID, like that's also what's embarrassing to me. I account for 2 cases, not one, 2, because of repeat exposure. And the repeat exposure being because of just like a little misunderstanding or miscommunication in regards to what the next steps should have been. All because of perhaps there being, and this is just me picking up on this, but I picked up on the discomfort about talking about sex and sexuality, STIs. No one wanted to tell me, hey, your partner might have cheated on you, or ask the questions to find out that I was non-monogamous and one of my partner's partners might have cheated on them or been dishonest or something like that. I didn't have that in this moment, and I needed it. I know where I can get it from, but that wasn't accessible to me in the moment. So therefore, I gotta make sure that this shit don't happen to nobody else. If you found value in this podcast episode or any podcast episode or from any of the social media accounts, anything that I said, if any of it stuck with you, please consider leaving a donation to Something Positive for Positive People. If you visit www.spfpp.org, on the homepage you'll see options to become a Patreon subscriber where you can donate monthly, committing to whatever it is that you choose to commit to. You can donate via PayPal, or you can donate via Venmo. And all of these options are at the top of the homepage whenever you go to it. Please continue to support the podcast by leaving us a review, sharing it in spaces that you feel that they are relevant or valid. Let me know what you thought of this. Let me know how the audio sounds, because I'm not using the same equipment that I had before. And here I am, like, going to be doing a lot more of these solo episodes until I can get to a point of traveling to people and seeing them in person, or I get the hang of this new recording format a lot earlier. But it's just easier for me to record myself because I'll fix my autocorrects, my likes, my ums, or correct myself if I say the wrong thing. I didn't mean to say autocorrects. I don't know why I even said that. So thank you all for your support. Thanks for creating this environment, this space where I feel safe to share such intimate details about my dating and sex life. Shout out to my fucking amazing partners who are with me through this and who dealt with my emotions, and everybody who dealt with just like a not all the way Courtney, if that makes sense. Yeah, and I won't be able to drink for a few weeks, but as soon as I can, y'all know we're going to get back to them tipsy talks. So again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm on social media at H on my chest. Till next time, stay sex positive.